Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Mike Burnop, who is a celebrated athlete who discusses with us his time from high school, and he got a full paid scholarship to play football. He is a graduate of Virginia Tech and went on to play some professional sports, and he is now the color voice for Virginia Tech football and basketball. He chronicles for us the life he went through, a life of discipline, quite honestly, that his parent instilled in him to become the athlete he is. And a lot of what he is today is because of the hard work and the discipline he has grown to expect and the disciplined life that he leads. It's a very interesting podcast, and he is a very successful businessman as well in the Salem, Virginia area. Marty, what are some takeaways we can gain from Mike?
I really enjoyed Mike's podcast. Very informative. Every new recruit wanting to play for the NFL should listen to this podcast. There's a lot of education, there's a lot of information, what these guys can expect from, say, the older guys that are on the team. Also, the very important thing to have a backup plan B just in case they go for a year and then they're not signed on.
Mike has a lot of wisdom from his life experience. Let's listen and learn together. Hey, Mike, it is great to have you with us. For those who are maybe listening to you for the first time on our podcast, just so you know, folks, Mike Burnop is a Hokie graduate by Virginia Tech, as well as I am a Virginia Tech Hokie graduate. Marty, my wife of 57 years as of this recording, is a Hurricane graduate. But Mike, for our listeners who may not know, you are the voice of Hokie football, basketball, a Hall of Famer, and you've garnered a lot of accolades. Mike, it's great to have you with us.
Hey, it's good to be with you. Finally catch up, and glad to be with you, even though we got a hurricane in the house. Still can't get over that last play of that last football game down in Miami.
Yeah, Marty doesn't let me live it down and those kind of things. So at any rate, Mike, you're a very gifted athlete. You MC a lot of programs. You're the voice of radio, and some people may say, "Yep, you've got the voice for the face for broadcasting and so forth." But can you give us just a little bit of your background and if you were born with that golden tongue, golden foot, so forth? Certainly let us know. Or maybe did you have to perfect that through various parts of life?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I got the face for radio, not TV.
All right, there you go.
Let's get that straight. So, but no, I grew up in a small town called Salem, Virginia, which is right outside of Roanoke. And all the athletes in Salem always went to Andrew Lewis High School. They had a great football program, and they were really, really good in all sports. But I went to Roanoke Catholic and had 40 people in my class. And so it was a very small school, played, all the sports that they offered, and ended up getting a scholarship to Virginia Tech. So came up to Tech as a Hokie, kind of a green freshman. And, freshmen could not play their first year. You had to redshirt or play a freshman schedule back in 1969. And so we played a freshman schedule while the varsity was, we'd watch them play. And I think they opened up that year actually against Alabama, which was kind of exciting. Bear Bryant was in Lane Stadium, and the Hokies lost that game, I think 17-13, and it was really, really close. But yeah, and then after that, as a sophomore, I starting playing. I was played 2 years under Jerry Claiborne, who was a guy that believed in running the football, didn't believe in throwing it. He was a guy that said, "Hey, three things happen when you throw the football, and two of them are bad." Right? So then Charlie Coffey came in with Dan Henning, who was a great offensive mind. He liked to throw the football, and so the next year when I was a junior, I went from catching 10 passes as a sophomore as a second lead receiver to catching 46 and setting a record that stood for many, many years. And so uh, after football in college, I played 2 years in the World Football League, which only lasted that long. One for the Jacksonville Sharks, one for the Shreveport Steamer. Came back to Virginia Tech, got my master's degree, still working out, and then got a tryout with the Buffalo Bills. Got cut the second exhibition game, but I got to meet O.J. Simpson. That was some kind of interesting thing back in the day because they were pretty good back then. And then after that, that's when the broadcasting thing started. So you go back to 1983, and Jeff Charles came in. He was hired by Bill Dooley, who was our football coach at that time. And Bill Dooley hired Jeff Charles to do his radio, TV, marketing, promotions, all that stuff. Now you got probably a group of about 20 people that do it. Well, Jeff was kind of on his own and hired one girl. So Jeff called me one day out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, Mike," he said, "I know you played football here at Tech. I've always had a color guy do my color on the radio broadcast. Would you be interested?" And so I said, "Well, I don't really know what you're talking about, but I'll come talk to you." So we met and talked. And I said, I've always been on the other side of the microphone. I was always getting interviewed, not interviewing. And so he said, "Well, I think we got good chemistry." He talked to some other ex-athletes around this area and said, "Hey, I think we can do this thing. And if you're willing to take a chance, I am." I said, "Well, let's do it." And so the crazy thing was, the next week or two, Virginia Tech was going to open up against Wake Forest at Lane Stadium. This is back in 1983. And so Wake Forest was playing the week before in Winston-Salem against Appalachian State. And so Jeff said, "Hey, let's go down there. We'll watch the game. We'll call the game on the radio on a tape recorder and listen to it on the way back. And we can kind of get a feel for what I want, what you need to do." And so we sat on top of the press box in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, did the game on a Marantz tape recorder, and he popped that tape in the car on the way home, and we listened to the broadcast. And the next week we went live, Virginia Tech against Wake Forest in Lane Stadium. So no, I was not born with golden pipes. I didn't know much about that broadcasting thing. When he first talked to me, I thought he was talking about putting the games were on WUVT. Remember back in the day, they used to pump those in the dorm?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So then he tells me, "No, we got about 50 or 60 stations across the state of Virginia." And I said, 50? So I had no idea what I was getting into, but that's kind of how it started. And those days, nowadays, that would never happen. Obviously, you'd have to go through the process, and go through all kinds of different people and interviews and whatnot. So I just kind of got lucky, I guess.
Well, Mike, you got a scholarship directly out of high school to go to Virginia Tech, and yep, by your definition, you only had 40 graduates. But did you go through some extraordinary measures to become the athlete you were then and are now?
No, not really. I mean, I think when in high school, my brother was like a senior when I was a freshman. And so that team that they had was really good. I think they only lost one game maybe. And I was a freshman on the team, but those guys were a whole lot bigger than I was, and they were pretty good at beating me up a little bit and kind of teaching me the ropes. And so, the next year, kind of became a decent athlete, decent player, and just continued to progress. Wasn't that big, probably weighed around 195 maybe or something like that. But, in high school at Burnop Catholic, you never left the field. There weren't that many players on the team. So you played offense, defense, every kicking team, and basically never left the field. So got a lot of experience. And, we were pretty good. We had good athletes, and I think we only lost one game as a senior. And so then I got the scholarship offers and chose Virginia Tech.
I'm going to read into what you're saying, Mike, and I'm going to believe that even though by your admission you weren't the biggest, the best, you had I'm going to use the term, a true grit about you that even though by your uh, testimony, not the most talented, but I'm going to believe that very possibly you had a discipline about you that you're going to do whatever it takes to be a part of a winning team. And I'm going to ask you to be humble and just assessing what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty accurate because I grew up my family had five kids. My father was a truck driver. My mother was a nurse at the VA hospital. And, they worked their fannies off to send us to a Catholic school. And so, we had pretty good discipline, and again, I knew the value of hard work just watching them, and especially my father getting up early in the morning and getting back late after driving a truck. And so, yeah, it was that kind of way. And, I was blessed with a good set of hands. I'll say that. God did give me a good set of hands so I could catch a ball pretty well, but wasn't bad for a slow white guy, my man.
Yeah, I too will acknowledge, and I have before, that I can't jump and I've got no rhythm, but hey, I can fly airplanes. So, but Mike, I think what you just said is very, very important. That your dad, your family culture, raised you with a great work ethic, and you do whatever you have to do to get the job done. Is that pretty descriptive of your family environment?
It was. I mean, we had chores to do around the house, and we had to mow the grass, and we were lucky we might get 50 cents, and it'd probably take 2 hours to do it, and we get an allowance, 50 cents, and, we could hang up for, one day we could get $1, we could go to a Dollar Tree store somewhere
Yep.
and get a treat. But yeah, it was kind of like that, and that was kind of the way it was in college too. You just kind of had to, um, stay there and be dedicated, and there was none of this stuff back in the day where you thought about leaving school or going to another school. When you got that scholarship, man, you were committed, and there was no leaving, there was no backing down, no quitting, none of that. I mean, we worked hard and for everything we got, and that's just kind of the way I was raised, and kind of continued that into the business world, and this in the world of um, doing the radio as well.
And you and I were raised at Virginia Tech, and I'm a 1970 graduate. Maybe you graduated a year or two behind me,
Yeah.
but that was back in the day when Virginia Tech did not have as much of a football team, the notoriety then as they do now. Lane Stadium is a much larger stadium now than what it was. And so, Mike, I can thank you for being a part of building the Hokie football team to the point that it is now.
Yeah, it was fun. T. Marshall Hahn was such a great Virginia Tech president at such a young age. What a phenomenal guy he was. And he he really believed in athletics. I don't know if you ever had a chance to meet him or talk to him much, but what a great president. And he always was high on athletics. He came on every trip that we took on the road, flew with the team, always came up to us afterwards, positive, whether we won or lost. And, we were independent back then, so we were traveling all over the place. I mean, we go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and 2 weeks later go back to Stillwater, Oklahoma, playing at Kentucky and South Carolina and Florida State and Wake Forest because you were independent. And until we got in a conference way, way later up into the Big East days, that's kind of the way it was. But he was such a good role model, great president, believed in athletics, and built that stadium. And that was kind of a cool time.
I knew of Marshall Hahn just by virtue of the title he had, but I never personally met him. And wow, to have a president to actually travel with you, speak with you, that had to be pretty inspiring.
What was so cool about that whole thing is I stayed friends with him for all the years, and he had a farm. I lived down at the in the valley, and he's got a 1,000-acre farm down there that he left in a conservancy and whatnot, his family. But T. Marshall died a few years back, and I used to go visit him about once a week at the farm, and we'd have dinner and just talk and reminisce. And it was one of the big honors I ever had was to talk at his funeral, speak at his funeral at Burrs Hall, and that was kind of a nice highlight. He was such a great man, unbelievable memory, photographic memory. He never forgot a name, and had that great career at Georgia Pacific later, and I could always remember hearing that jet flying and land at the Tech Airport Friday afternoon and back Monday morning.
Wow, yeah, that's great. Mike, let me ask you about, I'll say scholarships in football, primarily football. We are mentoring a college student who has just entered the NFL draft. And as we're recording this, we're within a week or so of the 2025 draft. But for aspiring football players, and it could be maybe any sport, but I'm thinking football at the moment because we're mentoring this student. What is the work ethic? What do they need to do to just keep at it? And then kind of a multi part question. What kind of planning would you recommend for an aspiring football player, but then maybe have a backup plan should that player not be drafted? Where do you go after that? So, kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, it's difficult because clearly I didn't get drafted, and the World Football League was an option for me. So I got lucky in that regard to play there for 2 years, and then eventually get to the Buffalo Bills, but didn't make it. So yeah, you kind of got to have tunnel vision. I mean, the college days are the best days of your life. When it gets to the next level, that's pay time, and everybody's fighting for the same thing you are. They're fighting for their job, and it's not real friendly sometimes. It's not like the college atmosphere. It's a job, it's work, it's you're trying to beat the other guy out. You're trying to prove that you can play at that level. And so you got to be zoned in, zeroed in to everything that you're doing. When you're in those meetings, you got to pay attention to the playbook, the scouting reports, all that stuff. You can't cut corners. If you're doing your weight room workouts, you got to do it all. If you're doing your running drills, you got to bust your butt and do them all. And there's just no shortcuts in that level. And if you think you can get away with it by athletic ability, no, that's not going to happen. And you better have a backup plan. So if this young man has got a college degree, he needs to make sure that if he doesn't, he gets it. And if he does already have it, then to have a fallback plan to when he exhausts all his eligibility or chances to play, to have something to go back to in the real world. Because the chances of making it in the NFL, they're not real good. I mean, you think about going from high school to college, and then from college to the NFL, those percentages go down, 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 and it is very difficult.
Yes, and I certainly understand that. Would it be fair to say also, Mike, that as a football player, you're in for the moment, but I mean, you didn't have a 5-year plan, or let's say a 5-year, 10-year contract or something. Were you living almost month to month type thing?
Yeah, in the World Football League, you got paid um, by the week, by the game, and then it got to the point where they were started missing payments, and you knew the league was in trouble. So yeah, so then yeah, I came back and worked on my master's and degree and got that taken care of, and was substitute teaching some, and then after the Buffalo Bills thing ended, then I ended up getting a teaching job in Roanoke. So I was teaching and coaching at Northside High School football and basketball. And so that was kind of my backup plan until the business opportunity became available. But yeah, you got to have a plan and you got to make sure that you're not out there living paycheck to paycheck because sooner or later the play days end and you got to have a real job. And not everybody's lucky enough to get to the NFL and have a big pension and all that sort of stuff. That real world is real.
And even with a big pension, maybe sign-on bonus and so forth, even that has a limited span to it. In other words, don't. And I'm not. I haven't played the NFL, but I think it would be fair to say that don't plan on living the rest of your life on whatever sign-on bonus you may get or something like that.
Well, you got to be smart. I mean, that's the thing, and that's what scares you now. You know, the NFL stands for National Football League, or
Yep.
not for long, not for
Yep.
long. And so, it's like that's what scares you now about these kids in college that are getting all this money from the NIL. And so many of them just go below that money on cars, jewelry, whatever, and they don't plan for it. They don't take their taxes out. I was talking to an accountant friend of mine in here locally the other day, and they said that they're dealing with one of those guys right now that's blew all the money and now he's facing tax issues. And so, there's no guidance, it seems like, in that regard. So yeah, you got to be smart with your money and take care of it, obviously, because again, you don't know when that day is going to happen, when you get hurt, when you get cut. It ends abruptly, and man, it is an adjustment after that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you in that context, Mike, we are mentoring this football player. He is a college scholarship player. He has hopes of getting into the NFL, but he does have some impulsive spending habits, and we are working directly with him. Quite honestly, I'm monitoring almost 3 or 4 times a week where he's spending money and so forth, but I'm working with him very closely in the context of everything you're saying that Marty and I suspect you as well, have reached a point in our lives where we have invested and we're at a point where we have the choice to do exactly what we're doing. We're talking with you right now by choice, but it's all a matter of the discipline that we've had to live the life throughout for the last several decades.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. 100%. You got to have that discipline and you got to keep an eye on. I'm glad y'all are doing that because he'll appreciate that. Maybe not now, but one day down the road, he'll be thanking you guys for what you've done.
No, and I appreciate that. But he is pursuing a communications degree, and he'll have his degree maybe in another month. But in the context of communications, should he choose to be the voice, a radio voice, or whatever like that, what what advice, what steps can you tell him, or would you tell him if you were with him, or our listeners if they wanted to pursue a career like that? How would you even get started?
Anything that you do in communications, the best thing to do is try to get involved with something locally where you can see what happens behind the scenes. Like, for example, there's a lot of people here at Virginia Tech and Bill Ross program. And, if they want to be behind the camera, well, then they go volunteer and try to get on Friday Football Extra, the high school season, because they're always looking for people to do that at the local TV stations. There's never enough people to film, to edit the film. All these high school games are going on a Friday night, and they all put together a half-hour show on Friday night at like 11:30. So that's a great experience for kids. So the same thing, just get as much experience as you can, whether it be if you're going to be a writer, if you're going to be on a microphone, try to volunteer, try to be the voice of a high school team or a local team or be on a podcast. Just get as much experience as you can and feel comfortable behind the microphone. and all that sort of stuff. And just do whatever you can in that regard to get as much experience as you can.
Would it be fair, Mike, to say, man, just be hungry and look for opportunities? You got to be very assertive and be willing to do whatever it takes to learn, even if you're not being paid for it. Would that be a part of it?
Absolutely. That's happened many times to people that I know that are here graduating in this program at Virginia Tech. Sometimes these kids are having to take jobs that they don't necessarily want, like they're taking a job for the summer in a baseball league in Minnesota, right? It's a summer job, but the experience they're getting is unbelievably good. And they live with a family and they learn how to do that and be wise with their money because they're making very little, if any. They're taking bus trips to go to all these places, but they're basically doing it voluntarily. But that experience pays off down the road. And so, yeah, you got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit. It's not going to happen like it happened to me. I mean, when Bill Rolfe left the year he went to UCLA, they must have had 400 or 500 people apply for his job. They whittled it down to 125, and then the final 10, and the final six, and the final three come for interviews. I mean, it's a long process. So it's not going to just happen overnight where you flip your fingers unless you get really, really lucky or know somebody.
Well, Mike, you very recently, I believe, went through rotator cuff surgery. Am I thinking correctly?
2 weeks ago, yesterday, sure enough.
Wow, 2 weeks ago. Marty had rotator cuff surgery a few years back, and I know what she went through. But so the healing process is eventually going to happen. You just have to go through the physical therapy and so forth. But do you see the next few years you continuing to be the voice of Hokie sports?
Yeah, I do. Let me clarify one thing. Mine was a shoulder replacement. It was a reverse shoulder replacement. So the PT guy and the doctor told me that that's a lot better and easier than rotator cuff surgery. So in that regard, I'm happy because I've had no pain. All it takes is a little Tylenol, and that's about it. So that part's gone well. But yes, they've had a little bit of change. So we technically do not work, Ron, for Virginia Tech. We work for the rights holder of the network,
All
which
right.
was Learfield until a year ago. And they got outbid by Playfly Sports. And so Playfly gave me a 3-year contract. 1 year's down, two to go. So, barring anything health wise or anything else, I plan to finish that up and we'll go from there.
Now, are you hoping for a contract renewal of the voice, or can you look beyond that yet?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, at some point, I've been doing this, I think, for 43 years. They may want to go another route, get somebody younger. I don't know how long Bill wants to do it. Um, we'll just have to wait and see and cross that bridge when we get to it. I mean, it'd be nice to continue on, but at some point, you're in your 70s. It's like, how long do you want to do this? Bob Euchre or what?
Yep. So, well, I can tell you we're, yeah, we too are in our 70s, but hey, loving life and enjoy doing what we're doing. But let me ask you about your shoulder. When you said shoulder replacement, I thought, okay, that's got to be a euphemism for rotator cuff surgery, but you literally had a shoulder replaced, something similar to
Yes.
a knee replacement, hip replacement?
That's exactly what he is. It's a shoulder replacement. They do apparently shoulder replacements, and then they do reverse shoulder replacements where the ball is in I guess on the inside as opposed to the outside. And those are supposed to be, some newer version that works better. It's a less recovery time, and it's a lot easier in PT and rehab as opposed to the rotator cuff. So yeah, I mean, it got to the point where I tried cortisone, PRP, all kinds of stuff. And it would work for a little while and that was it. But you got to the point where I couldn't even push the car door open or like lift my left arm up to even scratch my ear. So it was bone on bone, football related, I'm sure, and probably weightlifting, uh, carrying cases of paper at the office, whatever, throwing kids up in the swimming pool. Arthritis just caught up with it. And the crazy thing was, Ron, it was my left shoulder, not the right one, because I played tennis all the time until I couldn't toss the ball anymore.
Well, I was just taken aback when you said shoulder replacement. But I think, Mike, it's important to know to our listeners who are athletes, yeah, it is possible to be a star, scholarship, and you can be playing very well at the time you're of the age of playing. But then as time moves on, it's very possible that sports injuries can catch up to you. Is that somewhat what it was for you?
Absolutely. It's just a matter of time. I mean, you got to be really fortunate and lucky to play, as long as I did in college and not get hurt. Some of my buddies I played with in college have had two knee replacements. They've had shoulder replacements, hip replacements. I mean, it's just incredible. We call one of our teammates a bionic man. I mean, he's had both shoulders, both knees. It's incredible. So this is the first thing, other than having my knee scoped back in the day. This is the first thing I've ever had to have replaced, and just got to the point where the quality of life, you had to do something, bone on bone. And so, yeah, it'll eventually catch up with you. Something's going to get you sooner or later. And as athletes, you're not promised the next day, the next practice, the next rep. It could happen at any time. And that's why you got to be ready for plan B.
And I think in that context, Mike, for any athlete who may be listening to us right now, whatever sport you're in, you've got to look forward to the future. I think one of the things perhaps Marty, Mike, and I can say, you can't always predict what your medical future will look like. Things may catch up and you have to have choices all throughout life. So be planning ahead. And should you be fortunate enough not to have any specific medical attention specialty, then fine, but at least you're ready for whatever happens.
Absolutely. You got to be prepared. No doubt about it, because things can end in a heartbeat, just like having a car wreck you go home driving home tonight. You're not promised tomorrow, the next day. And so, yeah, you better be prepared and have a plan ready.
Well, Mike, you're a very inspiring kind of person. Marty and I always enjoy listening to Hokie Radio with the Mike Burnop voice. On behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you, Mike, for everything you have done for the sports field. Also, you're a very successful business person in the Roanoke, Salem area. So great being with you, Mike. Thank you for sharing your life with us.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, Ron and Marty. And you guys ever get up to Blacksburg for a game, if y'all come up here, let me know, and we'll get to meet in person. And I think that'd be awesome.
As a matter of fact, we are coming down June 5 through 8, I believe it is, for a reunion.
Okay.
And that'll be the next time, just a couple of months away. We'll be there for that, and we'll be coming down for games. Mike, we will definitely look you up.
Well, I'll be there for the reunion Saturday night on the drill field, and then that Sunday farewell brunch. I always host that on the way out. And we got two coaches already committed. Trevor Adair is going to be there, and Megan Duffy. And so the Sunday brunch, I don't know if y'all usually stay for that, but I'll be there emceeing that one, and we'll have a good time with that. So maybe I'll see you there.
Sunday brunch, we will be there. That's how we met you personally last year at that Sunday brunch. So, Mike, we're looking forward to renewing the dialogue in our relationship.
Sounds good, Ron. I appreciate it. You guys have a happy Easter, and y'all continue to do well up there.
Thank you, Mike. You have a happy Easter. We'll look forward to continuing our dialogue. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Marty. Happy Easter.
Bye.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, MARTY, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny, some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.